Hey, it's Kendrick with Technology Interpreters, and so welcome to day 4 of the complete course on SentinelOne. I've got Jabari and Pierre here with me, who are part of the Cybersecurity Mentorship program for Technology Interpreters. These guys have already been in SentinelOne. I've done all kind of things, incident response and dealing with malware, and also learned how to use the console. And I've also got Sam with me, who's a network engineer, and also one of my customers who actually provides cybersecurity services too. And then also I got in Lawrence from LinkedIn, who asked some questions. So I got him in spectating, just hanging out, who wants to learn more about security and transition into the role, hopefully at some point. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm changing over to the console. This is number 3 of me recording this video because it's like that sometimes. And so what we're going to look at is right now, we've already covered the dashboard on day 2. We did an overview of the entire console on day 1. We did Ranger, which was yesterday, which is super cool. Ranger's a way of detecting like rogue computers on your network, including IoT devices, whether it can be Roku's and all Xbox game controllers, Xbox game consoles. It detects all that stuff and it reports it back to the console. So super freaking cool. Check out that video. That is part 3, but this is part 4, and we're going through the Sentinels tabs, and Sentinels are actually the endpoints. And you see right here at the very top, it says endpoint, okay? And so I've got my machine here. So we're going to start here. I'm going to go through what the endpoint, and then I'm going to work my way all the way across here, and I'll just blur out the things I don't want you to see. So first of all, when I click on the device and SentinelOne, it brings up this menu, and I love this menu. And by the way, the console visible IP, that is my IP address, but that is not my IP address because I'm on VPN, because I recorded this video the first time it showed my real IP. So that is VPN address. So feel free to tag it all you want to. Don't do that. Actually, don't go to jail. That's not a good advice. But anyway, as you can see, when I click on this tab, it gives me lots of information about my device. So when it connected, so if you see anything that says last 4 minutes, that essentially means it's active, because I guess it polls every 5 minutes. So last 4 minutes, I've learned to interpret that as it's still active, which means you can do all kinds of things. And we're going to go through this entire menu and show you some of the cool features in just a second. But it also shows you the last logged in users, that is healthy. That means it's connected. SentinelOne is running. The UUID is a unique identifier assigned to devices in SentinelOne. Shows me when it was subscribed. Basically, when I put an agent on this machine and connected it to SentinelOne, the last time it was rebooted. The console IP, which is this is going to be public IP unless you're on VPN, gives me the serial number of my computer. Basically the installer type, that's like you can use an MSI or an executable exe or a .msi file. It tells what file type I use to install it. The Ranger version, this is the version of the agent on the machine. And in addition to that, we've got the customer identifier, which is basically, this is a custom thing that I can assign to the device to be able to refer to it, identify it. It could be a username, it could be a serial number, it could be some unique identifier that you create on your own. It also shows me the CPU, shows me the amount of memory on the machine. I'm running 64 gigs. Shout out to Sam, who encouraged me to go ahead and put some extra in the computer. And it also shows the agent version, which you notice that the agent version and the Ranger version are 2 different things, okay? So you only do it one install, but that Ranger actual software has a completely different version from everything else. And then when I scroll down, you can see right here, it gives me the network adapters, and it gives me all my local IP address. These are non-routable IP addresses, so that's why I'm showing them. But it also shows the MAC address of different things in case you want to try to steal and spoof my back address. I may or may not blur that out, okay? All right, but then once we do that, we're just getting started. We get to go in here, we're gonna go through some of these features, and I'm gonna skip the remote console. You have to wait for that one. That's the cool one. It is essentially a remote shell, but I'm going to go through agent action. I'm going to explain exactly what all these agent actions are. So manage tags, that means we can assign a tag to this device, and tags come in what's called key value pairs, right? So you can determine what the key is, and these are some of the tags the MSP has created, and then you assign the value related to that tag. Not going to go into detail with that, may dig into that. Key value tags can be simple, but also confusing at the same time. But you can use these to assign these to devices, and then you can target them with policies or different scripts and different other ways of grouping them together using these key value pair. Okay, that's the main thing you need to walk away with. Customer identifier, we told you that's down here. Right now it shows NA. We can assign a custom value, call it what you want to, apple, tree, food, whatever you want to. Move to another site. I told you how the console is organized. I showed you in the previous videos all the different sites I have. So essentially each company, say for instance, I have 100 to 1,000 companies that I support. Well, in this console, this is an MSSP console, Managed Security Service Provider console. And so this allows me to put multiple companies in this interface and manage them all separately and keeping all their assets and all their policies and everything separate, even though I have a very nice console to be able to access and do things from all. That's what I do at work every day. I jump back and forth between customer sites, right? And so if I want to take this computer, for example, and I want to move it from one site to another, I will use this option. And then it gives me the option to choose. And like I said, these are the sites for the mentees, right? So they have their own site, so I can move it to mentee number 1, mentee number 2, etc. You know what I'm saying? So I can move it to their site just by doing it, because sometimes you'll get computers that'll get put in the wrong place. Maybe you use the wrong registration key and it gets put in the wrong customer sites, because we do a lot of scripting and that happens occasionally. So that's what that is for. Under show passphrase, so if I click this, when I want to uninstall this manually, so say for instance I want the user to manually uninstall the SentinelOne on their computer, it will not let them uninstall it unless you provide them with a passphrase. And this is something, I'm not going to show you my passphrase, but I could show it. Random UUID, this is a unique identifier right here. So I can actually go ahead and change that unique identifier for whatever reason. The reason when you may want to do this is maybe I clone a device and I have 2 devices that have the same unique identifier, because when you do an image of a device, you can literally clone everything, including the SID, which is the, I think, security ID. That's what Windows have. They have a SID. And then also for most software, they actually, every time that software is installed, it generates some kind of unique identifier or UUID. And also we have the ability to even come up here and search by UUID, just like that. Okay. So anyway, so once again, just keep in mind, it's just a custom value assigned to this agent, which is software installed on this machine. Console activity, it tells me whether it's online. The reason why I know that is because sometimes I may need to remote shell, like remote into it, do stuff. Sometimes I may want to disconnect it from the network because it got a malware detection, but it just lets me know the status is network connected. Shows me the agent version, so that's been updated. So that's important because sometimes you have to manually force the upgrade of the agents. Full disk scan completed. We have it set up so when you install SentinelOne on a device, it will perform a full disk scan. But unlike traditional antivirus, so this is why you can't confuse endpoint detection and response with antivirus, is because the reality is antivirus used to do a full scan, like almost on a daily basis or a weekly basis, and it scanned the entire hard drive. It caused performance issues. It caused all kind of network issues because they had to download these long, big signature files. Endpoint detection and response does not do that. It essentially, when I install this software, it's going to scan the hard drive one time. Okay. And then from that point forward, it only will activate when say for instance, if I double click something to execute a file, it'll activate then and to see open file execution. And then if I copy a file to the hard drive or something like that, it'll so basically on write or execution is when this software comes in and it uses AI, artificial intelligence, to be able to act and determine if this is a malicious behavior. And then also there's script control, which is another engine that allows it to kind of detect when scripts are running that may not necessarily write anything to disk or execute anything. They may be doing what's called living off the land, which means you're just using PowerShell or some built-in feature of Windows to execute a script, and it's able to use the artificial intelligence to detect that. That's a lot to say. I'm going to drink some water after this one. All right. So anyway, so that's randomized. We can migrate agents. So say for instance, I'm with company A, which my company is Ariat Advisors up here. Okay. So let's say for instance, I want to change and I don't want them to manage my stuff anymore. And I get a contract with another company who sells SentinelOne. Well, I can migrate this, or maybe this customer leaves me and goes to another company. Then I can use this agent actions migrate agent to migrate all those SentinelOne agents to an entire different company's management console. Okay, very helpful. Confirm local upgrade. Not as familiar with that one. I don't have permissions for it. And this one, I do recall having used that in some, or having interaction with it, but fortunately, sorry, not able to give you more details on that. And then here's some of the endpoint actions. This is standard stuff: reboot, shutdown, uninstall, approve, uninstall. Sometimes when I haven't even used the approve, uninstall, or reject, uninstall, but to me, it looks like what this is doing is you have like an action, maybe because I'm part of a group or a security group in SentinelOne that doesn't have permission to just uninstall stuff. So maybe I'll initiate an uninstall action, and then somebody who's administrator like me has to approve it or reject it. And then send message is a whole different thing. Basically, it's cool because, like, for instance, if I have somebody and I'm trying to deal with a Google Chrome vulnerability, then I can do send message, and it will send a message to their desktop and will say, hey, brother, friend, partner, uninstall this or reboot Chrome or do whatever, but it just pops up a message on their machine. Okay, so that's endpoint action response. This is where we get into the stuff like, oh crap, you got ransomware on your machine, you got malware on your machine. So what do we want to do? We'll disconnect it from the network, but it doesn't just disconnect it. What essentially does, it like disconnects it from everything but the SentinelOne console, which still allows us to be able to remote into the machine, perform actions to help like contain the malware, remove the malware, unhook the malware, all those things. So it disconnected from the network doesn't mean it disconnects physically or logically from the network. It's still connected over the internet, but it can't communicate to anything but the SentinelOne console, which allows us to do remediation. And that's why you buy products like this. And then once you finish with remediation, you feel like the device is safe. Maybe it was a false positive or something like that. You can reconnect it to the network at that point. File fetch is the cool feature, allows you to literally like be able to say, I'll put the name of the file, put the file path, and I can grab a file off of a machine, download it to the console. Remote shell, I gotta show you remote shell. I mean, y'all, everybody loves hacking, so we cannot go off this video without showing remote shell. So say for instance, I got a computer, I want to remediate it. I want to fix something on the machine, you know. So remediations a lot of times require us to run scripts to download things, to change permissions on things, to uninstall software that may not be needed. So we need to do all these things. And so if I need to do that, this remote shell comes in real handy. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got to grab my SentinelOne key from my password keeper. If you need a recommendation for a password keeper, let me know. I have a good one that we use everywhere. I use at work and at home. Got to put my authentication code there, which will change. So feel free to copy that all you want to, but it is going to change every few seconds or every few minutes. And so anyway, once I do that, this is going to spin for a while. It takes a little bit, but this literally is the same as me. Like, well, it's not the same. This is a lot nicer and neat and safe way. But you know, if you've done anything with hacking, you know what a reverse shell looks like, right? You drop a certain piece of code on the machine, and then it creates a tunnel or SSH communication back to the host or wherever you're hosted, and allows you to be able to execute commands on that machine under certain permission levels, right? So that could be the user level. Maybe you figured out a way to do a privilege escalation, and you can execute those commands as administrator. Now you see this does take a while for spinning, but it's worth it because I want you to be able to see this, because this is one of the features that I use absolutely the most. So this shell feature, 100% value add by itself. And a lot of customers don't even just use this for security. It's just so neat, you can use it for everything. So you see right now, at this point, I've got a full PowerShell command. So I can do get attack process, which is a PowerShell command. And I run it, it gives me a list of all the running processes on my machine. So I'm literally connected through SentinelOne from the internet all the way back to my machine here that's on my network. Okay, so cool. So remote shell, we can dig into that further if you have any questions on running PowerShell commands and stuff like that, but we definitely wanted to make sure that you saw that. Click down here, open this back up, and we'll go back to, so that's all under the response tab. And then say for instance, sometimes you'll like get disconnected when you're doing a remote shell. You try to connect in, it says, hey, there's already a remote shell established, and you can use the clear remote shell command to be able to clear the remote shell. Agent version changes. This is how we do. SentinelOne does not automatically upgrade its agents like a lot of products do. So we want to do an agent update. And when we do this, we can go here. We have to select the operating system. It doesn't give me any option here because I'm actually on this machine. But say, and a lot of times I'm doing this, I have maybe 15, 20, 100 machines. Maybe I'm working at thousands and stuff like that. And I can do agent actions and I can do agent upgrade and click right here. And then I'll have to select the version if it knows I have more version. And then I have to select the version of the software, because sometimes maybe the GA, the latest version of software, maybe we don't feel so comfortable deploying that because it's not been tested. Maybe it was just released 2 days ago. There may be bugs in it. So sometimes we'll go back several times, and we have the option to choose an EXE or an MSI file. Okay, so we have multiple options and multiple versions, and this will be for Windows, Mac, and Linux. So that's, but I only have a Windows machine in here, so that's why you're only seeing one package right now. And so I can mark as up to date to say, okay, whatever version is there, let's just go ahead and say that's up to date for me. I can go here in shortcuts. This takes me to view threats. Let's click it. Okay, so that takes my UUID and it goes to the threat tab, and pops that UUID in, and it will show me any threats that have been detected on that machine. So if I'm working on that machine, that's a quick way to go from looking at the machine details to instantly jump in there to be able to see the threat deals. Deep visibility, don't have this feature, but it's cool because it's where you can run queries to search and find different things on the machine. Very awesome feature. And then show applications. Basically, it goes here, it's going to the application tab. See what happened right there? Puts the UUID there and shows me an inventory of all the applications that are on the machine. Not sure why I don't have any inventory, but we'll talk about this in just a second. Okay, okay, there we go, under the inventory tab. So that's what we have there, but we'll talk about that tab. Looking forward, there's a whole video coming on that tab. Now, we got agent version changes, we got shortcut, show applications, and then full disk scan. So that's what I told you in the beginning. We typically do that when the machine is first put on the network. We do one full scan, and then we just monitor for execution and writes to the hard drive or scripts that may be executing. But say, for instance, we do have, say, this user clicked on something, we think this user legitimately may have infected themselves, we can initiate a full disk scan again. But say, for instance, we initiate the scan and we realize, okay, it was a false alarm, we can abort that scan. So that's what those features are for. Troubleshooting. Fetch logs allows us to pull SentinelOne logs as well as the Windows event logs. If you don't know what that is, look it up off the machine. We can pull that. A lot of times we have to do that many times because we want to look through the event logs on the machine because we can see things that actually were happening on the machine that we couldn't maybe see through the SentinelOne console. So we can disable the agent. Say, for instance, the agent is acting up and is catching some software and causing some performance issues. We can disable the agent and let and I've had to do that many times. I had servers. There's a particular application, the users didn't really know all the details of how it functioned, and I'm sitting there trying to figure it out. So I started implementing exclusions for processes that needed to be excluded from, like, this software controlling it or whatever SentinelOne was doing to protect it. It was causing performance issues. So sometimes you have to disable agents to do the troubleshooting. When you finish, you want to re-enable agent. Reload, I think that just reloads all the services. Not as familiar with that one. And restart service, also saying that I think that restarts the SentinelOne service, but don't hold me to that because it's one I haven't used that much. All right, and then here we have Ranger. So enable Ranger, you saw that. If you want to know about Ranger, that was the last video, okay? So that was part 4 of this course. You can see Ranger, you can see it in action. You can enable and disable Ranger, and basically Ranger allows you to detect rogue machines or unmanaged machines, which means machines and devices that don't have SentinelOne. Configure firewall logging, that's a cool feature. We can do that in endpoint sends firewall events to local log. Endpoint sends firewall events to activity logs to the console. So that's a feature I haven't used. I'm curious about it. So, we may start playing around with that, get you some more, and that may be a separate video by itself, okay? So that's troubleshooting, that's configuration. And then tech support, that's all like disabled for me. But you can see purge data, purge database, control. So my understanding, this seems to be related to the agent. Let's see, current role does not allow me to do that. Start remote control profiler, event throttling. So these are things I don't have access to. Sorry, no information there. Now, literally, that is just part of the SentinelOne. That's just all the information related to that machine. We ain't even going to the other tab. So let's go here and looking at this tab. All right, and I'm going to like sanitize this because the thing is, I can check this scope and all its ancestors, this scope and all its descendants. So what this is, ancestor means that from the company who I purchased the SentinelOne management console through, they have a whole bunch of policies that apply to all of their customers, including me. And that's called ancestor. If you think about your grandparents, your great grandparents. So in order for me not to see those policies, I uncheck this, okay? And I did this earlier, so it wasn't showing the video, but whatever, it undid it for whatever reason. So when I say this scope and its descendants, that means things that I defined at this level, which is the top level of technology interpreters. But I have more levels below this. I have active protection and default groups. So I have even a level below that. So when I'm at this level at the top, these policies apply to this level and these two groups below it. Okay, hope that makes sense. Under the policy tab, this is where I configure the difference between these two policies. So I've got active protection and default protection. So a lot of times what we do is for the default group, we go in here, we click configuration, and we put it in detect mode only. The reason why we do that for the default group is because when we first put SentinelOne on the computer, there may be stuff on there that we don't know what we don't know. So we put SentinelOne on it, and it'll sometimes detect stuff, but it doesn't like remove the file because that could break something on the server or break something on the user machine. So we put it in this detect only mode so that it basically can let us know it's there, and then we can put an exclusion in if it's something that's needed, or we can say, okay, we put it on SentinelOne scan, it didn't detect anything, we can go ahead and move it into the active protection mode, which will essentially then turn this on. Now, getting into the policies, I talked about the agents, the engines, man. In this video, this is a lot of information in this video. So I'm smoking ears. I'm at 19 minutes, but we're going all the way. I feel like I should break this video up. So, hey, what do y'all think? Should I break this up? We're at 19 minutes. Should I break this up into a second series? Second part on this, because this is a lot.
Yep.
Yep, everybody. So
Yes.
I tell you what, I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger. I'm going to stop here. So when we come back with part 2 of the of this, well, it'll be, I don't know what we'll call it. We'll call it maybe 4A, 4B or something like that. But part 2 of the Sentinels video, man, you can see this is a lot, but this is where I spend 90% of my time in SentinelOne. So we're going to go through the policies, talk a little bit about policy. So this will give you reason to come back. So if this video was helpful, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I don't know, you know, they be saying like how many people watch the channel and don't subscribe. I don't know. I don't have that many people that, I don't know. But anyway, I hope to see y'all back on the video. Thank y'all for the support. I'm literally 200 away from 15,000 on YouTube. So appreciate everybody that supported me and got me this far. And I'll see you in the next video.